AP Environmental Science Video, AP Environmental Science Video. Hi, this is math video for percents, and this is Mr. Balsiger. If you understand how to change percentages into numbers for multiplication, then this video is probably not for you. You can turn it off right now. But if you were curious, here we go. If you wanted to, let's say that you got an 80% on an exam that was out of 40 points, and you want to know how many points did you get. So if you want to know what 80% of 40 is, all you need to do is multiply 40 times 80%. Now that's the tricky part, is a lot of us you might be watching this because you might say, well, what is 80%? How do we multiply it? I like to compare it to dollars. If you had $1, that would equal 100 cents. So if you had 80 cents, that would equal $0.8. And percents work the same way. So when you see you want 80% of 40, you could say, well, I want to times 40 by 80%. Or another way to say that is I want to times 4 by 0.80. That's changing it into a number from percent. So 40 times 0.8 would be 32. And that's how many points you got on the exam. Now, it's I did this in my head. I knew 4 times 8 was 32, and so I was able to figure that out. Let's say that I wanted to know what 88% of something was, and I wanted to know what to multiply by. That would equal 0.88. Or if I had 0.75, you could say that was 75%. And you can keep doing this. Now, another way that percents could be used, like in the first free response question in chapter 2, it kept using what percent of a percent of a percent. So let's say that you wanted to know what 20% of 80% of 40 points is. So let's say there's a 40-point exam. You got an 80% score, but of that, 20% of the questions were unclear. So you were wondering how many questions were unclear. Well, you can just multiply all of them together. If your starting number is 40, you can, and you want to figure out what 80% of 40 is, you would multiply by 0.8. And then if you wanted to figure out what 20% of that 80% of 40 was, you'd multiply by 0.2. In other words, you can just multiply them together and continue doing that. This would be 32 times 0.2, and that would equal 6.4. So if you took 0.2 and multiplied it by 32, you'd get 6.4 points total. So let's do that again. Let's say you wanted to know, if you started with 50% and you wanted to know what 50% of 20% was, you could simply multiply 0.5 times 0.2. You would get 0.1. So that would be saying like you had 10 cents. If you had $0.10, you'd have 10 cents. So why don't you try this one? What is 40% of 60%? Try it. What is that? Write it out. Show me the decimals. And what does it equal? And then turn it into a percent. What is the decimal? What is the decimal? What does it equal? What is the percent? So hopefully you got 0.40 times 0.60, and that would equal 0.24, and that would be 24%. I hope that helps.